Welcome to our webinar on how to turn brand briefs into high-performing content. We have had a few webinars in the past and we've gone through a range of topics, but I thought it was finally time for us to touch on briefs because it's very easy to just see the brief as a checklist and as a list of things that you don't even know where they come from or how to interpret them. So today we have Rachel that's going to help us decode briefs before we get on with her and her knowledge. My name is Isa. I'm Twirl's community manager, but I'm also a creator on and off Twirl. So I know the struggles. I've been literally with Twirl since not the beginning, but pretty much. This is also how I started my UGC career. So I've learned a lot along the way, and these webinars are basically what I organize to make sure that you guys get as much insight on what we think is important in order to become a successful UGC creator.
Hey everyone, I'm Rachel. I have been here since the beginning, but it's people like Isa who've come in and really helped us flourish over the years. I'm the first hire at Twirl. I lead creative strategy here, essentially helping brands produce briefs that then get sent over to you guys as creators. I usually lead the webinars for brands, so it's quite exciting, but also a bit nerve-wracking speaking to creators.
In case anyone has doesn't know who Twirl is or you haven't dived into our platform yet, we have just a QR code here. There's also a Notion template for organization that you can download for free. It's the one I use every day, so you can use it if you think you need a better system for your UGC. And then the UGC Diaries, which is a blog post, a blog, where I have loads of blog posts on everything I know about UGC. I update it regularly with new blogs on different things. Like a new one I have on there is about UGC photos and how to make those really great. So if you ever need any deeper insight into anything UGC, you'll probably find a blog on there.
Awesome, thank you. And yeah, in case it isn't obvious already, Twirl is your go-to hub for all things UGC, whether that's tips on becoming a better creator, landing more jobs, and also a platform to find those UGC jobs for you. We've got a network of over basically like hundreds of brands across the US, UK, parts of Europe, who are looking for creators like you to bring their products and their stories to life in the most humanly way possible, which is what we're all about. So of course, with that, the challenge is how do you interpret a brief in the way that the brand is looking for, but that also lets your true voice shine. So what we're going to get started with here is understanding that the brief is part of a bigger strategy. You, of course, only see this one part, but hopefully by understanding the processes that happens before it, you can kind of approach how you create content a bit better, and ultimately so you can have a better partnership with the brand so that they can keep coming back to you as somebody who lives and breathes UGC but also knows their brand really well. So yeah, this is kind of a really big picture of how it all works. It obviously starts with the brand having an idea, like we want more human content. We maybe have some objectives like increasing sales or building brand awareness. That then gets put together in a marketing strategy. How are we going to show up to our customers? Are we going to be on paid ads? Are we going to be doing organic social? What creators, whether that's influencers or UGC, are we going to partner with? And from there, that then trickles down into, specifically content strategy, which in this case, short form video. If they've got a big campaign launch for a product or a new partnership that's happening, they are also looking for content to support those bigger campaigns. And that's where UGC comes in, demos of how to use the product, lifestyle instances to show product in their everyday life, testimonials to give credibility to that product. That's really where you come in, and the brand then produces that brief for you to interpret and learn how to support that campaign. So as it says here, those are the instructions you receive. That includes everything. But of course, the most exciting part is when you finally get to create that content, that it gets out into the world, and it's part of really that bigger strategy of supporting a campaign or just building trust as a more human face, which we all know and love.
As soon as everyone sees that the brief is part of the bigger, greater strategy, I think it's just so much easier to pinpoint the goal of the content that you're making. So Yeah, that's the goal.
I think as well, something we mentioned was like, because you're a UGC creator, it's really important as well in a way to think like a strategist, because it's also then part of your skill set as a creator on how you're going to, pitch to brands, say, hey, I noticed this, you're lacking in this area. By thinking in that way, you can also broaden your skill set to improve as a creator and growing your UGC business as itself. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'm first going to start by breaking down section by section what a brief usually entails. We're using, of course, the Twirl platform as an example, but this is also good for you to know when you receive briefs from other brands that you're maybe pitching to or looking to work with. So as you see here, a brief should always aim to communicate one clear message. They should be able to come to you and say, listen, this is the primary message, the story we're trying to tell. And that's something that you should be able to say in one sentence. This diary helps me stay organized. This razor avoids razor burn and is affordable. Very simple. You're not here to do their whole marketing strategy. You're here to create one piece of content or more that communicates one clear story. So look for that message in that brief to really understand everything else. From there, you want to look at the inspiration links to understand, how you're going to communicate that main message. Is this going to be for ads where performance will likely be based on like sales, conversions, click-through rates, all that? Or is this going to be used more on an organic side where it's something that somebody might come across when they're researching the brand, or it's something that just like adds a bit of humor, inspiration, is relatable in a more like native sense. From there, you're also going to want to look at the duration of the video, how long it's going to be, as that also then determines how many points you can fit in and how you can tell the story in a way that just feels the most natural to you, but also to the audience in that way. But yeah, sometimes on Twirl, you'll be able to see whether it's more of a scripted approach or a guidance approach. And on this webinar, we're going to be leaning more into what to do with a guided approach brief, which is where the brand is giving you, guidance on here's the things we'd like to cover, everything, but it's for you to interpret and use your creativity to bring that to life, which in my opinion are the best collaborations. I don't know about you, Lisa. Maybe a bit of both.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to have a little bit of flexibility with briefs, but some brands do have, as Rachel probably very, very well knows, some guidelines that are very strict it could be because of compliance reasons or because you just can't say certain things. So some briefs can be quite strict. So it's important to read them very well to also see what their approach is initially. Like, do they actually want you to have freedom or do they not? This is like so important.
Yeah.
And it can be easy to overlook as well.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, you also want to avoid having extensive revision requests. So really understanding what they're trying to do, what flexibility you have is just going to make the whole process a lot smoother. And more on that later. So just a brief observation here. I think often I understand as well as a creator, it might be really overwhelming. Like, ooh, this is super exciting. Like, I want to make sure I do a really good job. And just some points here to keep in mind as well. We see some where maybe you're interpreting it too literally, following it word for word, just being too careful with it, that it ends up losing that human element and feeling more like an ad. Or you might accidentally interpret it too loosely. Maybe the brief isn't clear enough either. I also want to put that out there that like I'm preaching to brands how to make this a better experience too. So it's not just you guys. But maybe you are, so excited or you have lots of campaigns on at the moment and you end up misreading something or misunderstand the core message, or just something that doesn't align with the brand goals. So like Isa said, it's really important to understand everything and know when to ask questions so you can follow the guidelines while still making sure that it sounds personal and is engaging. So yeah, clear message, natural delivery, strong storytelling. That's what a brand wants, which we love to see. So we're now going to go into how to read between those lines, because I've seen those memes where it's like, oh, we want you to say da 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 da, but make it natural, and that can be very overwhelming and double-edged sometimes. But yeah, the main line here is that the brief doesn't say everything. You should always feel like you have creative liberty to interpret that. So what that looks like is understanding who you're speaking to. I personally find that it's really helpful to build a character in your head. You might even be that character, which is why the client would have chosen you. This way you're communicating and speaking in the video like you're speaking to a person, rather than, a figure. And like, it takes some time to really understand who the audience is and what their problems and pain points are, what they're looking for. Then you want to look into, the format of the video. How is it going to be filmed? Are you going to be, speaking to camera, doing more of a lifestyle edit? And this is where the inspiration links especially are really, really helpful. And it's also an opportunity for you to kind of see where your creativity can really fall in. And lastly, also understanding where it's going to live. Like I said earlier, is it going to be for paid ads, or is it going to be more of an organic post in that way? And then here, this is where you put your strategist thinking cap on. Like I said earlier, who are you speaking to? What do they want? What are their desires? And what is the one thing that you want them to take away from this? I think this is really important to have, so you can kind of treat it like a north of the script, especially when we're dealing with, short form content, 30 seconds and whatnot. Every word really needs to earn its place. So yes, you could prop up the camera and record, your honest first impression of everything, what you love about it, but that's probably going to be a really long thing. So you want to make sure you have these things in mind to help script it in a way that is clear and engaging, and achieves that outcome that the client is looking for. So yeah, I really, really love this mindset shift, which is rather than treating the brief as like, okay, what do I need to say? What do I need to cover? Like a grocery list. Instead, talk about like, how is this story going to be told? What story am I going to tell? Rather than, okay, this is going to sound really cheesy, but like, rather than a shopping list of things to cover, it's like, you already have all the ingredients. How are you going to make it? How are you going to cook it together so that the final result is something like appetizing that people want to eat, literally, in that way. And once you kind of have that framework, that understanding, that's when you can really translate it into the content. You're understanding what the clear focus is, what are the key things to mention. So yeah, think of the goal, think of what the viewer needs, and then the content angle for it. Now, there's so many, concept types, storytelling styles. We can go into this another time, and there'll be a few here in the presentation as well, which you can check out. But yeah, these are all really helpful tools as well to kind of understanding how to tell that story. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna add actually that we will make a webinar specifically on scripting, because that's a whole other like topic, and you will see some pointers on the slides that we have put together, like demo style or product showing, whatever. We will go into it in a different webinar, because scripting is art. But this is a good starting point for you to just know that what you're saying is not just meaningless stuff, and that every word in your script kind of just make sure every word matters, and that you're saying something with every sentence. Essentially, this is where we're trying to get to with all this.
Absolutely. Awesome. So yeah, like we said, we'll go into scripting another time, but these are really clear, simple ways to break it down as well. And really, yes, this is a good structure, but don't let it, limit you or feel like, okay, I need to write it out so that it follows things. Like, I think always what I like to do as well is brain dump. I'll start with a voice note of what I'm thinking, or I'll start with, just putting down all my ideas. It's the same thing with briefing. I do that. And then from there, I kind of identify, okay, this is a really good point. This is a really good story. And that's how I then condense it down a little bit more. And what you'll often find there as well is you'll find, okay, there's actually so many things I do love about this. And if the brand has come to you with, one specific, concept in mind, you could always go back to them and also say, hey, like, I can do this, and here are different ways I can interpret it, kind of go back to them and say, here are all different options I could do. And of course, they can pick the one they like best. But also, it's a cool way to kind of show them that you're really excited about working with them. You have multiple ways to tell that story, different reasons why somebody should buy into it. And rather than trying to cram everything into 30 seconds and it just being like, okay, I'm sorry for all the food analogies, but like rather it being like the most disgusting salad you've ever seen, like narrow it down to one juicy, yummy salad that you like. Not doing too much in that way. But yeah, it's a good way to upsell like multiple videos to the client as well, rather than just one in that way. So yeah, quality checks here, all that. Awesome. Then, yes, avoiding common revisions. I think Isa mentioned this the other day, it's usually most helpful to know what not to do. So here's a very clear list. Of course, tell your story, but something that to really help avoid revisions, making sure that you have a clear hook. They need to know why they should keep watching. You're not an influencer. They don't know who you are. So you want to give them a reason to keep watching. And your personality will come through with that as well. Like I said earlier, too many USPs, keep it focused. Ask the brand as well, what's the priority? If you do get a brief that has so many things on it, I really appreciate it when a creator comes back and is like, listen, this is way over 1 minute long, like we can't fit this all in. Then you can collaborate on that. Something as well is variations. So for those who don't know, that's when the brand might ask you to change the hook of a video. And this is mainly used in like a retargeting element and adding different touch points. And it's very important to make these actually different, not only verbally, but also visually. So that's something I see often getting wrong, but that's also okay. We understand. And yeah, usage, not asking enough questions. Like I said, always feel like you can clarify things. We much prefer, you taking the time to really review it, double check everything is good, rather than, you rushing the content and maybe ending up in a situation where it has to be completely reshot, because that's not a good use of your time. Certainly not good use of ours as well. So it's a partnership. We should definitely make that work together. But yeah, I really tried to like breeze through that. Hopefully there's obviously so much we can dive into in terms of like compliance, like Isa said, storytelling formats, messaging styles, all that. So feel free to ask us questions about it. But yeah, ultimately your like goal as a creator is to bring that human side of it. Yes, it's a strategic skill to produce a UGC video, and interpreting that brief is a really key step in ensuring that you are telling your story, but also doing it in a way that will complement the brand's goals. Because the result of that is everybody wins. They achieve their outcome and you get paid and have a potential long-term client. And those are the partnerships that are the most authentic, the ones that make my heart happy and make me love what I do every day, and just are the reason why marketing should be more authentic in this day and age. And so the fact that you're here as well shows a lot, because you know that UGC is a huge part of that, which is amazing. But yeah.
Is it possible to pitch extra, like upsell via the chat on Twirl? Like, how you feel, Rachel, if you were managing a client's like campaign and they were like the creator came up with more ideas and they pitched it through the chat? Would you think that would work?
I wouldn't set your expectations too high. I think definitely bring it up, but not in a way that distracts from the current campaign, because they likely have a deadline for that. It's already part of it. But definitely, after you've aligned on your script and whatever, you could say by the way, like, I love this so much, I'm really excited. If you ever wanted to collaborate and again in the future, these are some other ideas that I have. That is something we really appreciate, as there's a feature on Twirl that lets brands add you to their roster. So that way they can keep you in mind for future concepts as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's never bad to leave it out if you have a good idea and a good suggestion. What I will say though, that maybe it's not so much upselling, but is that if you do have an idea, or for example, you have an idea for multiple different hooks and you don't know which one you prefer, I would just tell the brand different options rather than an upsell and be like, I want to make more videos. Instead, just give them a few ideas, see which one they like better for this current project that you're on. And maybe they will love another idea so much that they will decide to go forward with a different concept with you. But I will say that again, coming into the first point that we were touching on about UGC being a part of a greater strategy, is that usually when the brands put a brief through Twirl, they already have a very specific things that they want to test. They have very specific objectives, and then they also have a very specific number of deliverables that they want. So it might not be possible for the current campaign, but if they really like your work, they might come back and work with you in the future. So that's amazing.
Exactly. And yeah, I really love it when creators are eager. To be honest, I think sometimes you do get people who are just there to make a quick buck, which is totally fine, you know, get that bag. But like when people come back and they're like, I have so many ideas for this, then it's like that actually like sticks in our brain. We remember that. So don't be shy to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. Another one, well, I'm seeing a couple of questions regarding pitching and just general things about applying to jobs on Twirl. I will let those questions out just because we have had specific webinars on that. So I would suggest that if you do have any questions on securing jobs on Twirl, pitching, etc., please go to our YouTube channel or our webinars page on our website. And we have links to all of the previous webinars we've had. And I have covered all of that extensively. So hopefully that's enough to guide you guys, especially those struggling to land jobs on Twirl. The next one is, I feel like when I'm writing hooks, they seem so fake. Any tips? That's such a good question.
Do you mean like when you're writing the hooks or when the brand's writing the hooks? Because I see that problem more when the brand's writing the hooks.
I'm guessing, I mean, she said when she's writing them, but I'm guessing that is true that also the brands can write hooks that are
Okay,
absolutely
when you're writing them.
cringe-worthy.
Yeah. I think hooks are meant to feel a little bit cringe because the hook is essentially what's going to get people to stop scrolling. I would focus less on the specific hook and more what you're going to follow it up with. Because it's one thing to get people's attention, and it's another thing to actually hold that attention and get them to watch the whole video. So really, they should work in harmony together. And I mean, there's lots of best practice, like avoid, I hate the word game changer. I hate the stop scrolling. I love when it's very clear from the beginning what your video is going to be about. And so this is something that you can do with obviously the verbal hook, what you're saying, but then also a text hook, maybe like make a teaser for what's about to
POV.
Exactly, as well as the visual hook. You know, you want to make that interesting. There's really those 3 touch points, visual, verbal, text, that just make the hook a little less cringe as well. They're focusing on so many other things.
It's difficult, but the other tip of advice actually that I have is more of an exercise for all of you watching here, is that when you're scrolling, we know we all spend too much time scrolling. Just if you actually stop and watch someone's video and say you don't know the person, is a topic that you wouldn't really like usually be interested on, just literally rewind the video and look, what was the hook, like what got you watching that video that comes from a person you don't know and it's a topic you don't even know about, because that's usually the hooks that are replicable and you can adapt those structures to your UGC hooks. So whether it's starting with a phrase kind of midway so it looks like you're already watching the video, or maybe it could be a question, or it could be a reflection or a controversial fact. You know, there's always these things that you can catch yourself seeing when you're scrolling. And I think just scrolling with awareness is so important when you are a creator, because you're consuming content and this is what you're making. So just analyze people's content and analyze what they're doing that's taking them to those good views or that engagement, those comments, and that's what you have to replicate in your UGC journey essentially.
Totally. I think that goes back to like the concept of the video as well. The hook, rather than focusing so much on like what it is you're going to say, first think about like what type of hook am I even going to do? Because that then helps like narrow it down a bit.
Or as well, who's the person that this is going to?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a hook is as simple as saying,
Speaking to that
if
person.
you've been struggling with X, or if you're the kind of person that X, then you're already kind of capturing the attention of those people that are your target audience. So it can be really simple. It doesn't always have to be as cringe, but sometimes it can be a little bit cringe, I
Yeah.
will say. So thank you so much to everyone, and thank you, Rachel, for
Thank
coming
you.
and spilling all the tea. You were amazing. If you have any more questions, just reach out to the team. We'll do our best to get through to you with that.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Have a great evening.